So my name is David Ansermino. I am a blockchain developer at ChainSafe Systems here in Toronto. We are mostly an Ethereum-focused dev shop, but obviously we're very excited with some of the upcoming work from the Parity guys and Polkadot as a whole. So this is going to be a hands-on section. So we're going to go ahead and set up Polkadot nodes for anybody here who has a laptop. Right now, the kind of Polkadot and Substrate are more or less bundled together. So this is kind of like it's still in the POC stages, but essentially they have a network up and running. You can stake on it, you can validate on it, send transactions. I've got a bunch of testnet dots that I can hand out to anybody who wants them. So for people who want to follow along, you can find these slides at tinyurl.com/polkadot-toronto. It should be a fairly easy setup. Basically, we're going to skip the syncing step. I have a copy of like more or less a synced node, so people can copy that and use it. But yeah. So there is a link here to download the current state of my node. Again, just to kind of bypass the whole syncing process, make this much faster. So you guys can download that. I also have some USB sticks on me if anybody's having issues with that. Essentially, there's just steps in here to launch it via Docker. There's some Windows, Mac, and Linux instructions. They're fairly straightforward. So perhaps I'll just leave it right here for a minute. If people who want to follow along can get these up on their own machine and start downloading that. Please let me know if you have any questions. You are going to be required to install Docker and get that up and running. I can certainly help with that. I also have some friends here who can lend hands. So on my machine here, I actually have a compiled version of it. It's not running through Docker. Let me just increase my font size. So this node here, I was running like maybe an hour ago, so it should be pretty fast to actually catch up. Currently, we are on block 2,700,075. As you can see, it's now idle, so it's actually downloaded the latest blocks and is up to date. So now what I can do is I can open up this URL, polkadot.js.org/apps, and that brings me to this nice, beautiful screen. So essentially what's happening here is this is a front-end web app that is connecting through the WebSocket port to the node. So this is kind of like ETH-stats, if anybody's ever used that. But obviously this has had a bit more forethought put into it, so it's a much nicer user experience. So this is kind of your general metadata about the current state of the network. You might notice some new terminology through here. The Polkadot guys have definitely taken some liberty on renaming, redefining some of the components of a regular blockchain system. So you've got your basic transfer functionality here. If you skip down to accounts, you can go ahead and make key pairs. If anybody who's following along gets to this side, there's a little information here on how you can request some dots. I was just given about 3 million of them, so I'm more than happy to share. There is also the Polkadot water cooler, Parity water cooler on Riot, Riot, where you can go and request more. Certainly, they're more than happy to hook you up. You can create an account, you can restore your accounts. Always important to back these things up, even if it is test network. So going back up here. So this is just a little overview of the staking mechanism that is currently taking place. To be perfectly frank with you, some of this terminology I'm not 100% familiar with, but this is essentially describing to you who the validators are and who has attested to them. Essentially the current state of the network. You can then also choose to participate yourself. So let me know if that's something that you're interested in trying out. I'm going to need to give you some extra dots. But essentially what you can do is you can stake and you can also nominate. One of the nice little features they've added in here is a little address book, something that I think most UIs have been missing for quite some time. Down here in chain state, this is kind of like some pre-formatted RPC calls. So you can query various statistics on the network. For example, I can get the timestamp from right now. It is 7:48 somewhere. So extrinsics is essentially a new term for transaction. It's kind of designed to take a less defined stance. They're not necessarily transactions. It's just intended to describe more overarching idea. Getting down here to vanity, this is a fun little thing that, if you have a little server, you might spend some time trying to run. Essentially what you can do is you can search for addresses that conform to a certain format. So for example, here I can search for an address that contains the word chain, and it'll essentially randomly generate accounts and see what it can find. You may also note this has a fairly different address to, let's say, Ethereum. Notice capitalization, also different length, and I believe that there is a meaning to them all starting with 5. I forget exactly what that is. Any idea? Yeah. I can't remember if it's testnet, but yeah. Getting to the last few items here, there's some raw RPC calls. So looking through the docs, you can get the exact RPC specifications. And then here are just some kind of little tools for you to use. You can sign messages and verify the signatures, as well as hashing the data. One awesome thing that's kind of being done here is these are largely separate components that you could then pull out and actually build your own UI using. So something that's definitely slowly coming to Ethereum is kind of this idea of UI toolkits that actually work with the ecosystem. So it's great to see this kind of being forethought. As well, once you have your node up and running, you can go and check out telemetry.polkadot.io. This is essentially a listing of the network. It's kind of cool since they've decided to include location data as well, so you can actually get a sense of where in the world everybody is. So I can switch over here to the map, and you can actually get like a geographical distribution. Currently, the main testnet is Krumlanke. I'm actually not sure what Barbecue Birch and Chain X are. Any idea? Yeah.
I believe Barbecue Birch is next.
It's going to be the next testnet, okay. Maybe they actually have it in here. Perhaps we can move it along. Definitely refer to those slides. That upload will only be up for probably another 24 hours before I take it down, the chain data. You can certainly try to sync a node on yourself. I've found that you really need to use like a cloud provider to do it successfully. Otherwise, your machine's going to be busy for quite some time. But yeah, please do try that out, and feel free to reach out to myself if you're looking for testnet dots, but there's also the water cooler where you can always get some more. But yeah, definitely hit me if you have any questions. Otherwise, thank you very much.